Hi, this is Ken White. I'm the lead pastor of Forest Park Covenant Church, and this is one of our podcasts we like to do, which is On Mission with Forest Park. And I'm here with Justin Saxton, who is our student ministry pastor and has been doing that for how long now?
Almost 20 years total.
Yes.
And then here, this is my 9th year.
You know, in doggy years, every year for a dog is 7 years. And I think as a student ministry pastor, isn't like every year the same? Like you've been a youth pastor for 140 years, according to that.
Probably true. Probably true.
And because of that, in your, I guess we want to say your 20th year, you decided to go on a sabbatical. Another way of saying that is we had agreed when you came here that you would be on a sabbatical. So we were really, really glad for you to go. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today, your sabbatical and what happened in there. So I think the best thing to start with is to say, step by step, just sort of real quickly, what did you do from the dates, which was approximately July 15th through the beginning part of September, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So I basically had 6 weeks, and I took a couple little trips, just short little trips. West Michigan's amazing in the summer, so it's not the place you really want to leave for a long period of time. Plus, it was our last summer with Jake at home before he goes off to college. So we were intentional about that because we wanted to be around with him and not take him off away from friends and whatever. So we took a couple trips, two with just Melissa and I, and then one with my kids, all of us together. It was a great family trip. And then kind of wrapped it up with some spiritual reflection, spiritual conversations with a mentor, advisor person.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So what was that you did on the first part of the trip again?
The first part of the trip was just with Melissa and I. We went up to Sleepy Bear Dunes, kind of hit some small little towns for like maybe 2 nights, 3 days up there. And just kind of a chance for us to kind of check in, kind of a deep dive, like, are we still good? We're good, right? Because we know we're good. We both, I think, communicate pretty well in terms of how we're doing with each other and everything. But just kind of a deep dive, like, all right, we're here in this section of life. We got a kid going off to college. We got 3 girls in high school.
Yeah.
You know, just touching base and having some good conversation.
Would you say that has always been a mark of strength in your marriage, or have you as a youth pastor, the stereotypical youth pastor who maybe isn't in touch with that kind of stuff, have you gotten better, or how would you describe that sort of relationship?
You know, I think we've had to fight and choose to fight for a good marriage, to make that a priority, to make our relationship a priority. It's not like we have assigned date nights like people do on the calendar and stuff like that. But we are very intentional about the time we spend together. Yeah. About, hey, it's okay. The kids will be all right for this time. We need to spend some time and talk. We need to have little conversations, fun conversations, serious conversations, financial conversations, we have to have those. And so just making sure that that's a priority has been really helpful for our marriage. Yeah. And so it's not like, oh, here's a big come to Jesus moment. It's like, all right, let's get up here. Hey, we're good. We like being together. Let's enjoy this.
So did anything come out of those conversations that you were like, oh, that's really interesting where we're at right now, or this is an interesting thought?
In general, kind of the overarching theme, I think, of the summer is, I don't know, maybe 6 or 8 years ago, probably 8 years ago, we made somewhere along that line a decision to intentionally kind of spend more time with our family, be careful about our schedule, not do multiple sports at a time, not do different things, because we really wanted to just pour in and invest in our family. Part of that is because we realized we didn't have any local family, and everyone local kind of has their own family. So we just kind of turned in and invested. And as we look back, we can see how that's paid off huge.
Yeah, I think one of the things you do that's been really incredible is what you do every weekend during the winter. So can you describe that?
That came out of one of the things we decided. Excuse me.
Yeah, chewing ice. It really, I think it communicates real love on a podcast. Yeah, thank you.
No, we started snowboarding. The older two really enjoyed it too. And then Jillian and Natalie kind of got into it, and it became something that everybody enjoyed together. Yeah. You're on the lift together. You're riding in the car up to the place together. So we started all doing that together every Saturday. Yeah. So no other sports are coming. We're going to snowboard together. And it's something we kind of all decided together.
Yeah.
And that's been a super great source of joy and fun. And just, even though it's just a day away, you just kind of feel like, we got away as a family. That was great.
Yeah. There's really no substitute for the quantity of time will oftentimes lead to quality time, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's not like we have like, we got to check off, have this deep conversation this week. But when you're there together that much, you end up having great conversations.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it comes a little easier, and you don't have to fight it like, hey, we have to talk about this so much. It just kind of tends to come up.
Yeah. That's great.
So, yeah, that's, so we're really glad to have taken that time.
Yeah.
And as we, we're kind of looking at, this is our time left with Jake, and he's leaving and heading off to college. It wasn't like, oh no, we didn't do this. We didn't do this. It was like, this is good.
Yeah.
Like, we're sad. We're very sad, but we're also really happy because we know this is a good step, and he's moving forward, and it's good.
And then what was the next step after that?
Next step after that was, we had hoped originally, kind of in my original plans, to be able to go out to California. It was just kind of getting too tough, too expensive, too weird to do that. So we ended up shifting and having my parents come out and my sister and her family come out here. And they live in Seattle. They've never been to Michigan before. West Michigan, at least.
This is your sister.
My sister and her husband and kids. And so they came out. They spent a week with us in our house. We were out on the boat. We were tubing, fixing the boat. It broke one day. We were kayaking, just doing all kinds of fun little outdoor adventures, going to the beach. It was such a fun time.
Yeah.
Such a fun time. And my kids haven't even, I think they've only spent maybe 2 or 3 other times together with my niece and nephews.
Yeah.
So
how old are your niece and nephews? And how do
they're all in the high school,
Okay.
middle school range.
They're sort of line right up with your kids,
Yeah,
then,
right.
right?
And our kids.
Who are Jake, Addie, Jillian, and Natalie. Just want to say that, a shout out to them in case they're watching.
Nailed it. They'll be happy. Yeah, it was great. It was really fun to have my parents there, my sister and her husband. It was easy. It was encouraging. It was kind of just like, oh, this is good.
Yeah. Well, again, some of the same question that came out of your time with Melissa at the beginning. Was there something that you kind of had a realization about that came out of that time?
Only in that, like, we had always wished we could spend more time with family. You kind of hope to be together, but it's just sometimes not possible. Yeah. And so you got to make the most of it. And when the chances and opportunities come like this, you just got to go for it. Yeah. Because it started because my brother-in-law was like, hey, I think we should all get together and spend some time together. And I was like, hey, yeah, it's a good idea. Yeah. But he really kind of said, no, let's do this. I'm like, oh, yeah, all right, let's do this. So we pulled the trigger, and it was really worthwhile, just super fun. You're never going to regret spending time with your family. Most of the time, no.
What happened then after that?
So then after that, we went up north to Pictured Rocks.
Okay.
Never spent much time up there. I've only been through the UP. Haven't
This
ever
is
actually stayed.
you and your kids.
Melissa,
Okay.
and the kids.
Yeah.
So we all went up there, had a great time. We rented a pontoon for the day. We talked to some friends who'd been up there, and they're like, this is the best way to go, because if you just want to kayak, you're going to be exhausted and only see a little bit. Take a pontoon, you can see all of it. So we saw every inch of the Pictured Rocks. We jump out and swim. We look for waterfalls. We jump off things. And
wow,
oh man, it was a great time. And it was kind of a time just to, after my parents and my sister and her family, be with my kids and just kind of watch and see what's unfolding, where we are. I really felt encouraged, blessed. Something about God's beauty up there was just like, God is good and still at work in amazing ways when I don't even see it sometimes. Yeah.
Well, interesting question that I have is, and you might not be able to answer because you have to put your head into the head of other people, but like how, from things that your kids were saying, especially in that time, because you were all kind of concentrated, how were they thinking and processing this sabbatical?
They started it by calling it the surf radical. So they changed it from sabbatical to surf radical. And it kind of, I think, came about because of my entrance into the sabbatical. You know, I think a lot of times people think you're going into the sabbatical like tired and weary and just beaten down and like, oh, just, need to catch a breath or whatever. But after the Alaska mission trip, just finishing up this year, it was a good year. And I was just excited to see what God is doing. My leaders were awesome. The students were awesome. Our trip went great.
Your leaders were awesome in
Yes.
Alaska. Who were your leaders at the Alaska trip?
My senior pastor was amazing, took great photos, had a great connection. The Holmans, the Hervos.
Yeah.
It was
a
just a great trip.
So the Surf Radical.
So that kind of sent me off into the sabbatical, like excited, thankful, hopeful for what I see God doing in students and families here at church, and like, all right, cool. I was just really thankful. And so that kind of sent me off into a really joyful start to summer. Plus, it involved some cutoff jeans that Jake had given me kind of as a joke for Father's Day. So jorts, I had some cutoff jorts. So I came out one afternoon wearing them. And they're like, no way. I'm like, you gave them to me. I'm going to wear them. And they're hideous, short cutoff jean shorts. We took a friend of his out on the boat, and I wore those.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, oh, my goodness. And it was just super funny. And I was like, whatever, it's all good. So that just kind of, that attitude kind of went throughout it. So we called it, as a family, the Surf Radical.
Yeah.
It gave us a lot of space and freedom and time to just enjoy being together.
Yeah.
And kind of enjoy the fruits of what we've cultivated, I think, for years.
Yeah. That's
makes
awesome.
sense.
Yeah, it really does. And just as a side note, taking a pontoon of pictured rocks, I've put that on my to-do list. So thank you for that.
So worth it. And I don't think I would have been able to do it without years and years of saving and planning.
Yeah.
So it was everything we did was a major blessing.
That's
it's something we wouldn't kind of really normally be able to do.
So after pictured rocks and munising and all that, what was next?
After pictured rocks, we came home, kind of just enjoyed the boat, enjoyed some time. The kids had to work still, so we had to deal with work schedules. I was working on my motorcycle, getting some things ready. And then we took Jake to school. So he finished working, and then we had to take him off to Purdue. So he's about 3.5 hours away. And so going through that experience, I didn't know how that was going to be. Sending off our son, our firstborn, and saying goodbye, like, whoa. And so I've had all these like joyful, fun, fulfilling family feelings, and then just like this like weight in my chest. But it was sad because I know he's leaving and it won't be quite the same, but it was also like, this is good. We feel confident about what he's doing, where he's going, who he is as a person. This is good.
Yeah.
So it's just dealing with that mix of feelings, driving home.
Yeah.
It was tough, but good.
Yeah, this is probably a good time. I asked how the kids were feeling about the sabbatical. So this is a good time to ask how from what Melissa was saying and talking with her, how do you feel like she was feeling about the sabbatical at this point, and specifically the saying goodbye to Jake?
Same thing. We were like, oh man, this is gonna hit us hard. Will we be able to kind of be the same as far as a close family? Can we keep this connection going? We came up with a couple silly things. We made a lazy Susan for our kitchen table out of a joke that came from dinner one night. And so now Jake sits on there through an iPad, and so we'll have like dinner conversations with him. So he just gets spun around to whoever's talking at the dinner table, and he's eating dinner too. He's got his AirPods in, sitting in whatever dining hall he's in, just sitting and talking and laughing. And so like knowing that we're still going to continue some fun traditions we have, and yet he's kind of doing his own too.
Yeah.
That helped her to go into this.
How's he doing at school?
Good.
Good.
Okay. Figuring things out. He's got a good roommate. He's got his first test tomorrow.
Yeah.
So he's pretty nervous, but all right, let's do this.
Got any sabbatical words of wisdom to parents who are having to drop their kids off on the first day of college?
Oh man. I would say embrace all the feelings, because that was one of not the mistakes, but one of my fears. Like I could feel the sadness coming up, and I don't want to be sad.
Yes.
And I want to just like, it'll be okay. So embracing that sadness kind of allowed me to enjoy the whole moment, so to speak.
Yeah.
The night before, we're sitting down, we're having dinner, and we talked about, let's make sure to pray for him, have everybody pray for Jake, remind him why we love him, how much we love him, all that stuff. And so we've gone through dinner, the meal's done, it's getting long conversation, like it's time to clean up, and I'm still not like motioning or starting this little whatever. And Melissa's looking at me, and I'm like, okay, let's go. And so I grab my plate and kind of get up and clear the table, and she's looking at me, and I could feel it. And I just was like, oh, this is so painful. But I just was like, okay, you're right. I need to do this. Let's do this. Sat back down, said, all right, let's pray for Jake and pray, tell him what we love about him, and just ask God to be with him.
Yeah.
And it was sad, and you tear up and you're crying, but on the other side of that, you're like, oh, okay, this is good. I know God is good. I've seen how God is good. I continue to trust God with Jake.
Yeah.
So
one of the things that I read recently is that when people are trying to work out their relationships with each other, one of the things that prevents them from working it out and also doing positive things is just it's awkward.
Yeah.
And being awkward in a situation is one of the things that prevents us from doing what we need to do. And just it's hard for us to get through that embarrassment. So people have asked me about that separation moment. And I learned the hard way from one of my sons who, I drove him to DePaul in Chicago, 4.5 hours, unloaded. It took about an hour or so, and then I had to drive back. And it seemed to me like everything he was telling me was like, okay, I'm ready to go. But just recently he was like, yeah, you left pretty quickly. And I was like, whoa, I didn't, you didn't give me any signals that you wanted me to stay. And I just realized now that those moments, they feel really awkward. But if you don't lean into them and do what a parent is supposed to do, which is to bring some spiritual sensibility, emotional health, maturity, and just kind of walk it through, they'll remember it the way my son did. And just if it's encouraging, even the pastor of a church doesn't always do the thing that they should do, so that's good.
Yeah.
So you dropped him off. What's the date of that? Where are we at?
We're like in middle of August.
Okay, August 15th.
So I had, in my head, I had 2 more trips planned.
Yeah.
Kind of for the sabbatical to kind of finish this up, not knowing what that was going to bring, how that was going to hit me. Like, who knows? Am I going to be sad for the rest of this? And it was a mix of that, but like you said, like embracing that kind of led me through it.
Yeah.
Into kind of some more full emotions with Jake. So that was cool.
Yeah,
I was really thankful for that. Our next trip was to Colorado. We had rented a car and then had an idea at the last minute. Why don't we rent a motorcycle for a day and ride around Colorado?
We had an idea, or was it?
I had an idea. Melissa's like, well, okay, that sounds like an idea. Let's go for it. And so she rides with me around here, just short little trips, but we've never ridden together in a motorcycle, at least like more than an hour. So I was like, I think it'll be fun. Let's do this.
Yeah.
She's like, okay. So she was game for it. So we canceled the car reservation. So we had no choice but to only ride a motorcycle the whole time.
That's cool.
It was a lot of fun. Getting used to this big motorcycle, cruising around. And so then we had talked to some friends, what are some great trips, some places we should go see. So we went and saw those places, rode the motorcycle everywhere, got stuck in the rain, got snowed on and hailed on at one point. One of the trips we did was up to the top of Mount Evans, which is like over 14,000 feet.
Yeah.
Denver's at like 5,700, something like that. So it was like 85 in Denver, and I have jeans and a T-shirt on and a helmet, and I'm still hot. We work our way up. It's getting colder and colder. Put on a jacket. The only jacket I had was like a light rain jacket, and Melissa put on a sweatshirt and a jacket. We get up there, and it starts hailing, and then it starts snowing. It's like 35, 40 degrees, and oh, man. So we had to turn around. We got probably, 13,000 feet or so.
Yeah.
And had to turn around. And we come back down about another 1,000 feet, and it's sunny and 60.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
It'd be great if we could just turn back from despair and trials and just, just go down 1,000 feet. And we're all, yeah.
No, it's great.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
go ahead.
It was a fun trip. It was great for Melissa and I to do that together. She was like, we got a comfy motorcycle, something we'd never really done before, and once in a lifetime kind of thing for us.
Yeah.
We had these communicators that didn't end up working as well as we'd hoped. So we still had to figure out, like, she was watching the map and telling me, go here, go there, go turn there, getting some different directions, trying small towns, little towns. It was cool.
Was that for 2 or 3 days?
That was for 3 days. 3 days and 3 nights. I think is what that, maybe 4 days and 3 nights, something like that turned out. And Colorado has always been a special place, I think, to both of us, because it's so breathtaking.
Yes.
When you're in the Rockies, it's just, oh my goodness, how can you deny God is present and active and good? And you see it so clearly. So we're driving on all these mountains, like looking around. I'm like, oh, look at that, look at that. And when we were getting near the top of this road up to Mount Evans, Melissa was like, oh, this is too scary. There's no guardrails. It's like a 1-lane road. There's some traffic coming the other way, so you got to be careful. And I'm like, oh, look, take a picture of that. She's like, no, I can't look. Holding on, got her head down. And so we don't have any pictures of like the top portion of our ride or whatever, but it was super cool. We come down, and then the whole thing that kind of said, hey, let's go to Colorado is Kevin Butcher, who you know, I'd met with him a couple years ago. He was a pastor in Detroit. He's kind of, I think, like a pastor to pastors now.
Exactly.
And,
rooted ministry.
Yeah, rooted ministry. Yeah. Just spiritual director, encourager. So I'd met with him before with Melissa and with his wife, Carla, and we had a great time. Like, this is really helpful, really encouraging, just easy conversation. And so I was like, hey, Kevin, could we come stay with you a night and have some more conversation? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. So we worked that out and spent the last night with them.
Yeah.
And
he and
that
his wife,
great.
Carla.
Yeah, he and his wife, Carla.
Yeah. And what came out of that conversation?
I think the need for me to embrace and live with my emotions more fully. It's not that I don't have emotions or that I don't feel passion about certain things, but I tend to like kind of keep it down or locked in control maybe, or just sorting through that a little bit. And kind of like just what I talked about with Jake, like, it's okay. Just embrace this. We're going to keep moving and kind of work through the hard parts, the sad parts. So it's all part of their life together.
Didn't he give you some sort of sheet to locate your emotions on too?
He did. We have this color wheel now. It looks like a color graphic chart or something on our fridge, and it's got like maybe 6 or 7 core emotions, and then out of each of those, basically there's like 220 different words to describe your emotion.
Oh, okay.
What are you feeling? So we're laughing about it now because it's on our fridge, and if someone's like, I'm having a rough day, I feel bad, or I'm mad, or I'm annoyed, or bored, or like, go look, is that what you really feel? And you kind of look through the wheel, you look at mad, you look at some other words that kind of describe it. Oh no, this is the one. Yeah. So it's kind of a joke, but at the same time, it actually is kind of helping us as a family even be a little more in tune with how we feel.
Yeah. It's sort of like whenever I do a podcast, I'm stressfully amused.
Yeah.
That's great. So that was last part of August, and then was there another couple of steps there?
Yep. The last part of August was that trip. Came back, it was great, super encouraged, and then we had Addie's birthday, and I was getting ready for like a solo trip. That was the goal at the very end, to do a solo trip around Lake Michigan. The night before, 2 nights before, I'm working on a part on my motorcycle in the garage. I'm cleaning it on a polishing thing, and it comes around and smacks both my thumbs.
Oh,
so big that they were both like incredibly swollen, and I could hardly grip anything. So you need grip strength, obviously, to ride a motorcycle. So
yes,
there went that solo trip plan.
Yeah, I didn't know that you needed grip strength to ride a motorcycle. Yeah,
kind of like a bike or like a mountain bike going down a trail. And so that was really disappointing.
Yeah, it is disappointing.
But at the same time, I was like, well, it is what it is, you know. Maybe, who knows how or why this happened. But let's roll, you know. Let's embrace the time I still have. I still have time here with my family at home. So we went out on the boat a few more times. We went to the lake and just enjoyed being outside. I'd sit on my back deck and read a little more.
Slow down even more.
Yeah. So it was good.
As a side lesson, you didn't learn the lesson that maybe you ought to have somebody else work on your motorcycle. That would have been my lesson. But,
and I even thought I was being careful, but
yeah, that's the way
I guess
it goes.
Accidents happen.
Now you've done some work with me, and I appreciate your handiness there. So, but not in a million years would I ever try to do what he did. But, and that sort of the windup.
Yep. That was the end. It was kind of funny because I've been expecting this big at the end, but it was just like kind of a slow, steady, live into what's going on, the emotions that are going on around you, paying attention to what you're feeling and what you're thinking. And I think continuing with this, I'm going to keep meeting with Kevin online and just checking in and talking through some of the stuff, and just try to do a better job at being aware of my emotions and expressing them.
Yeah. Do you think that not being aware of your emotions has been just a personality thing, or is it also something that works with being a pastor, where at times those two things together they can make pastoring difficult because there's a lot of emotions. And if you're not really in touch with your emotions, it can be doubly difficult. So how's that worked out in your life? What's the sort of dynamic interaction?
I think that's what happened is that as a result of learning to be a pastor and growing and what that means, you realize you have to be sometimes a little more selective with your words and your feelings and how you're dealing with situations. And so how I chose to handle that was just button it all up quite a bit more. I mean, there's still joy, there's still sadness, you still feel those things, but when it comes to my own emotions, maybe not letting them play out as much with people and with God at work in my life. And so kind of realizing, okay, it's time to live into those. God gave me those for a reason. Live into them, deal with them in a healthy way. But still be wise and aware,
Was there any last thing that you want to just say about the sabbatical that you...
I've been saying this, I think, to everyone that's asking, is I was super grateful that the church gave me the time to do this, the money to do this, that people actually contributed and were encouraging about it. As a family, I can't say this enough, we were so thankful that at some point in our lives years ago, we kind of made the choice to fight for our family and not with our family.
Yeah.
That was a common saying with our kids and with our family. No, we're fighting for each other. We're not going to fight with each other all the time. Now, we do have arguments or whatever, but that decision to fight for us, to be united, to work together, has paid off in ways I've never imagined.
Yeah.
So I'm super grateful for what that has turned into.
Well, it's been great to work on a staff where every single person on staff, I feel like they have done incredible things with their family, have real health. It's not families without struggle, but I've been very, very been amazed by what you do with your family. I mean, I thought that idea about snowboarding every weekend it's a hard thing to pull off unless you're committed to it with some intentionality. So that's been great to hear.
You have to say no to things, and that's the hardest thing.
Yeah. So say no to things, people out there. Well, I really appreciate. We were so happy. Everybody on staff was so happy to have you back. Partly because Luke made us brisket the day you were there. That was
great. What a welcome back.
Yeah, what a welcome back. But it was also just great to have you here and to have your whole family back. And so we're really, really glad that you got this opportunity to be on sabbatical, and we're just continuing to pray that the Lord will bless you, and through you will bless our ministry here. So thanks for being with us today.
Thank you, Ken.
Yep.